Hey guys, welcome back to more HOA stories. In this video, a homeowner association sued me because I rebuilt my house incorrectly after a plane crashed into it and destroyed my property. Here is what happened. Let's dive right into the video. And the first one is titled, My House Became a Mess. The first one starts like this. So a few years ago my dad was moving out of his house and in with his parents due to some health problems with my grandma. This was during summer break and I was just out of high school at the time, about to go into college, so I had absolutely nothing to do all summer as I waited to move out of state. My dad never was and still is not super organized, whereas I am alphabetizing my own bookshelf with a full system type A about keeping things in order. Call me weird, but I really enjoy reorganizing things and cleaning. It just hits that button for me. So being that he had about 2 months until he closed on the house, I just started to pack up some of the house for him. Basement was a disaster and I'd wanted to tear it up for years, so within the first day I had made a significant dent in the basement, which ended up being a very involved process. I didn't realize when he had moved in that a lot of the stuff from our old house was still packed haphazardly because my brother and I were too young to really help. So I went through the process of unpacking the still packed boxes from house number 1, labeling the boxes the way I wanted to, and then repacking those boxes appropriately. After about 3 days of this, I get about 50% done, including cleaning and packing my room and some of the garage. So here's the build up to the malicious compliance. My dad comes down to help me, all good with me. I start explaining where things go and my dad wants to change it. I resist explaining that I already have the system and that I've been doing the bulk of the packing, so he should probably just go with me on this one, which is when he hits me with the namesake of this post. So I relent because I know what will happen. Anyone that's really type A will agree with me that the only thing more frustrating than things being chaotic and out of order is things that are slightly out of order. Which is what I knew would happen. Regardless of the fight my dad and I had, he ended up almost following the system. Mostly things that belong in the labeled boxes went where they were supposed to, except for a few very important odds and ends that got put, well, not where they were supposed to. I noticed this, but because of my house my rules, clearly he has a plan, so I don't say anything. I knew the payoff was gonna be a slow burn, and it came several months later when I was in school across the country and unable to help. Dad calls me one day very flustered because he cannot find something he needed. He had been in the storage unit he rented in my hometown for the better part of 3 hours looking. Now, the storage unit got packed horribly by the moving crew. I've been in there a few times after this story and I feared for my safety. It's a legitimate labyrinth/jungle gym and a nightmare to get through, not to mention this was midsummer and there was no AC. So my dad is mad on the phone asking me where it is, and I ask him if it is in the box I labeled in big red Sharpie, important crap. He says no and I smile a bit. Then he says, well, you were in charge of packing all of this stuff and now I cannot find it. That's when I calmly reminded him of the blowout fight we had over this exact issue and how he commandeered my operation afterwards. I told them that if I was actually in charge, it would be in the box labeled important stuff. He hung up on me after that. I love my dad and I had no problem helping him out. We laugh about it today, but I cannot say that I didn't get a good chuckle at the thought of him sweating and cursing climbing around in that damn storage unit death trap. He recently found another place to live now that my grandparents have more in-home assistance, and I've already worked out that I'm gonna help him move. We already agreed that I am in charge this time. And the next one is titled, Plane Crashed Into My House, HOA Sued Me for Rebuilding It Incorrectly. So sometimes I feel like I might be one of the unluckiest guys in the world. That might sound dramatic, but I feel like my situation is just 1 in a million for everything that happened to go wrong. I live about a half hour away from an airport, so planes overhead, and even sometimes a little lower, is not something odd. A plane took off not knowing it had a malfunction that caused the entire thing to become uncontrollable. It was going down and the pilot couldn't do anything to stop it or direct it to land somewhere else, so it smashed right into my street and destroyed my house. It was not a small plane, so other homes also got damaged, but mine was the one that got hit the hardest. Not counting the people on the flight, not because they don't matter, I just don't have the info on that right now. 2 people died. One of them was my wife, who was crushed when the plane landed. I was hurt but managed to survive. Maybe that was considered lucky for me, but in the moment, hearing my wife didn't make it, I wished I was the one dead. After dealing with all the medical issues that I won't go deep into, I had to worry about my house. It was fully destroyed and there was no way to salvage it or anything. Even the insurance adjuster came by, took one look at it and said that I had to rebuild from scratch. Other homes had roof damage, missing walls, rooms taken out, but overall could be repaired without starting over. It was a year and a half of trying to get my home rebuilt while I was coping with my own medical issues and depression from my wife passing. My brother helped me a ton and I cannot begin to say how amazing he was. He let me live with him the entire time, drove me to my medical appointments, yelled at contractors and insurance representatives when things went wrong. I had to do minimal effort in all of this, which was great because things were going wrong left and right. The insurance especially was not happy with the cost of rebuilding the house and kept trying to start fights or claim certain things didn't need to be covered by them. I had contractors telling me over and over that they needed more time and pushing the ending line of the project back. I know this happens when a home is being built, it just wasn't something that I wanted to deal with during everything else. Finally though, my home was nearing completion and I could finally see an end in sight. Then and only then was I contacted by my HOA. They told me that the house I was building was against HOA guidelines. I just wanted things to be done and asked what about it they wanted modified, and they actually wanted me to tear the entire thing down and start from scratch. Not only was I not willing to do that, but you can be sure my insurance was not gonna pay for it. I pushed for them to tell me what was wrong with it, and after like 3 days they finally told me the problem. So basically they expected when I rebuilt my house for it to be identical to the one that got destroyed by the plane. Not only did I not want that because of the memories, but it just wasn't possible. That home was built 80 years ago and things just are not made that way anymore. Also, on their list of issues was the location of my chimney not being in the same spot, the shingles on my roof being different, my windows being in different spots and types, and finally, me having a porch. None of these things are actually against the HOA guidelines, by the way. They were just claiming they didn't approve of my house and demanded that I start over. I refused and they actually sued me for rebuilding it wrong. I got a lawyer to defend me, and I also wanted to sue them back for harassing me and trying to fine me for things that didn't exist. In court, they went on about how their bylaws exist for a reason, and I cannot just create a house without making sure that the HOA is okay with the details. They had to actually sit in court and tell a judge all those tiny things they considered wrong and come up with a reason for them being wrong, which the only thing they had was the fact that it was different than the original design, and they were acting like I did not have permission for my new house design. But well, I had a permit for the contractors to work and submitted with the town the exact specs and everything of the house. We had to sit in court and watch as everything was compared and make sure that I didn't have a single nail out of place from the blueprints, which I didn't. The judge had concerns of wondering why the HOA waited this long into my home being built to raise concerns, and instead of bringing them up at a point in the process when things could have been altered. They claimed they didn't know and had no way of knowing what the home plan would look like, despite the blueprints being accessible to them. HOA said, "It just looks wrong. Every other person affected by the crash has restored their home to the previous state. All we are asking is OP to do the same." My lawyer retorted, "Those homes were only partially destroyed and could be reconstructed. This home had to be built up from the ground up. He has every right in building his home how he wants, as long as it is approved by the town." HOA, "He didn't get it approved through us though." My lawyer, "That is not a requirement. It would be cruel to have the entire house torn down over these minor things. He wants to just move on from a life-altering incident and instead he is being harassed by you." The judge threw away the HOA's lawsuit, calling it frivolous and without legal standing. For my counter-lawsuit, he agreed that the numerous letters I got telling me to tear down my house were enough to be considered harassment, especially since they were coming in after the lawsuit was underway. They were ordered to leave me and my property alone, that if I got any more false fines or harassment from them, that they could be held on criminal charges. I was able to move into my new home and start to put the past behind me. I just felt so unlucky for everything that happened. It seemed that as soon as things calmed down, another thing popped up. I really felt after court that something else horrible was gonna happen, but so far nothing happened and things have been peaceful. I have the support of my family and I can try to enjoy my brand new house now. I can tell you right now, it's much easier with things looking different than if it all looked the same as when I lived with my wife here. And the next one is a malicious compliance story. So when I pay my mortgage, I round up and divide it in half. I pay half every other week. So my mortgage got picked up by another company when my mortgage company went out of business. To do what I was doing with the new company was $300 to enroll and an extra $40 each payment. Oh hell no. I spoke to my credit union and they had an auto pay that would pay my bills from my direct deposit free, so nearly a year goes by and I get one of those scary ass letters saying, "You're in default on your mortgage. Unless we get X payments within 10 days of this letter, we will foreclose." I was astounded since I'd never missed a payment and I was actually paid a couple of months ahead. I spoke with their accounting department. It seems they couldn't accept half payments, only full payments, even though they had done so for years. So the money had to sit unapplied until a full payment was accrued. That made sense, except again, they got more than enough and it was already in there in full before the due date, so on the due date they should have just taken it and applied it to the mortgage. So some further digging, the rep says to me, "Oh, by the way, we have $8,200 of unapplied funds in this account. What do you want to do with it?" Pay my mortgage with it? Oh, we cannot do that. So I had to get a check cut for $8,200, pay $45 for them to overnight it to me, take it to my credit union, cash it, pay $25 for a cashier's check, and pay another $45 to send the cashier's check back to them. I called relentlessly to see when it had arrived and had all kinds of postal tracking, signature confirmation, etc. Remember, I only had 10 days to get this straight, so they get it and verify that it is applied to my mortgage and that there will be no foreclosure. The rep tells me, "Well, your next payment is due in 2 weeks and there will be penalties and late fees applied, so the amount is XYZ and we are raising your interest rate to nearly twice what it was before." "Oh no, all this is your company's fault." She says, "You knew these were the terms and conditions when you took out your mortgage with us." No, I didn't take it out with you. I took it out with another company and I was assigned to your company. "Well, don't be late with the next payment." "Oh no, I want to speak with a manager." So then I finally get to speak to a manager and he wasn't much better. His only response, "Well, you can always go with another company, but good luck with that these days. So many foreclosures and your credit is not very good from missing so many payments." So I decided to take his advice. I contacted my credit union, explained everything, showed them their own payment transfers and the mortgage statement showing the other company had received their money bi-weekly like clockwork, and the credit union took over my mortgage. I got a reduced interest rate and killed all the fees, penalties and got the overpayment back. I applied it to the new mortgage payments, etc. So when a company acts like they have you over a barrel and tell you to go try with someone else, just do it. Edit, this still astounds me even after all these years. I cannot imagine any other company, car loan, credit card company, etc. asking, "Hey, what do you want us to do with all this money sitting over here?" and not automatically concluding, "Oh yeah, let's apply it to the outstanding balance." The next one is another revenge story. So my cousin was getting married and not having ever been to a wedding at her denomination, I went to the wedding rehearsal to make sure that I knew what to expect. I arrived in the church's car park, quite a large lot, to see a man shouting at a police officer who was telling him that the police could not and would not get involved and he could always seek a civil remedy. Having parked and being quite nosy, I take a closer look. A white van, a transit I recall, had been parked in the middle of the car park over several spaces, and from the lettering it belonged to a small builder. Now, this car park is clearly marked up as being private property and for church users only. Parked closely around the van, they blocked it in completely, where around 10 other cars. It was going nowhere. Being early, I entered the church and was greeted by the minister. We got to chatting as you do, and I asked him about the van. He told me that it belonged to a local builder who, over the course of several months, had acted as if the car park was his private property and would always park inconveniently for other users, and had been known to just dump building rubble along the back fence, leaving it for the church to clear away. Apparently, the minister had spoken to him and asked him to be respectful of his congregation and had been rudely asked, "What the F are you gonna do about it?" Now, this church had a very good choir who every year went on a 2-week tour, and this year they were going to Germany to sing in other churches of their denomination. The minister had arranged for a minibus to pick the choir up from the church early that morning to take the singers to the airport. When the choir members arrived, he asked them to park all around the van and then cheerfully told the builder that they would be back in 2 weeks. As it was on private property, the police just wouldn't get involved. And yeah, ripe stars, I would say that was a church choir revenge category story. Anyway, the next one is titled Free Taxi. So this was a few years ago, roughly 4. I worked in an office about a 45-minute drive from my house, and I had a friend who worked in the office, and I would give a ride home to it was on my way, and I literally had to pass by her house to go to and from work, so it was no big deal. Well, a woman who worked in my office lived really close to her and found out about our arrangement, and she wanted in too. She then guilted my friend into asking me. Since it was on my way, I said okay. Well, at the same time, my late husband's car was in the shop, so I would make a detour to pick him up, and he is a giant of a man, 6'3", and could not physically fit in the back, so to make things easier, my friend would just sit in the back. Well, the other woman, known as Karen, was a big woman, not tall, but big. On the way home, literally the first time she starts getting in the front, I explained to her that she has to sit in the back. Well, we get to my husband's job site and I park and text, and she jumps out of the car and gets into the front. I tell her to go back, and straight up she says no, because supposedly the seatbelt in the back is too tight, it hurts her chest. I tell her it's too bad, so she can get out if she doesn't like it. Well, she gets out and goes to the back seat. My husband gets there and climbs in. I start the car and the seatbelt warning light is on and beeping. She has the seatbelt off. I say, you need to put on the belt. I am met with a, no, I can't. It's easier if she's in the front. Well, I say, you're in the back, we're not going anywhere until the belt is on. She crossed her arms like a child and says, I guess we're not going anywhere. I tell her if she doesn't put the belt on, she can get out and walk home. With a nice bit of snark, she says, well, you can better call me a taxi then. That pissed me off, and that's what I did. I called a taxi. She puts her belt back on, but I say, it's too late, get out, you have a taxi coming. I say, you can get out of my car now or the police will be happy to remove you. She gets out and her jaw almost hit the road as I drove away. Outside, my friend, I never let anyone from work in my car again. And here, ripe stars, some people are just so ungrateful, so I can definitely understand where OP is coming from here. Anyway, the next one is an Am I the A-hole coworker story. I, 19 male, work in a small office. In November, a few of my coworkers organized a Secret Santa gift exchange for Christmas. It was optional, but most people joined in, so I did too, though I do not celebrate Christmas. I am ex-Christian, but I still celebrate the holiday season, and I thought it would be fun. One of the people who organized it is a woman I will call Jen, 50s female. She is a devout Christian, I know, because she had a lot of religious items on her desk and she's always saying religious stuff and talking about church. Soon after we all picked names for Secret Santa, she approached me and said that she was glad that I had joined in because it's nice to see young people getting involved in the spirit of Christmas. Then she asked if I would be going to mass for Christmas and I said no. She asked why and I told her that I'm actually ex-Christian, so I don't go to church. I don't think I was rude about it, but she started acting weird and said that I should not have joined Secret Santa because I was profiting off of other people's generosity in the celebration of Christ's birth. I didn't know what to say, so I said that I would be getting someone a gift too, of course, and I couldn't back out now because then one person wouldn't get anything. She said she would pray for me and left, and we didn't really interact after that. A few days before Christmas, we all were supposed to exchange our gifts. I gave the person I picked their gift and then I was waiting to receive mine. I did not know who picked me, of course, but eventually it seemed like everyone had gotten their gifts except me. Then Jen came over and said she was the one who picked my name, but since I did not believe in Christmas, there was no reason for her to get me a gift in celebration of it. I was honestly shocked, but she left before I could say anything. It did bother me a bit, but I decided to let it go because I didn't want any drama. Later though, I was talking to another coworker, Amy, 22 female, and she asked me what I got, so I told her what happened with Jen. Amy said I should tell our supervisor about it because Jen has said similar things to a coworker of ours who is Muslim. I told her I didn't want to make a big deal out of the Secret Santa thing, and I thought we left it at that. However, after the holidays, our supervisor, Mark, 50s male, called me into his office and asked about what happened with Jen during the gift exchange. I did not want to lie to a supervisor, so I told him what she said, but also that it was not a big deal to me. It was just a present. He thanked me and said not to worry, but that this was connected to a greater trend in Jen's behavior and he would have to take action. Yesterday I noticed Jen's desk was cleared out. I asked Amy about it and she said Jen had been fired. I feel bad because I did not care about getting a present that much and I don't think it's something that warrants getting someone else fired. I told my friend Sam, 19 male, about it and he said I should not have told Mark what Jen said because it was just a dumb disagreement between us, so I don't know, am I the a-hole? And yeah, Ripe Stars, let me know what you think about this in the comments, but I would say OP is definitely not the a-hole because it's not like he wanted Jen to get fired. It was pretty much just a series of coincidences, to be honest. Also, Jen was clearly the a-hole in the story. Anyway, someone in the comments said, not the a-hole, when people start waffling about the religious nature of Christmas, explain that yes, it's a pagan holiday and Constantine slapped some Jesus on it back in the day. Comment number 2, not the a-hole, what's to feel bad about? You did not press the issue and were ready to let it go. You were asked by your supervisor and you told the truth. Jen got herself fired clearly. Your supervisor even told you it was not the first time she pulled something like this in the name of her faith. You did not do anything wrong. Take it from an old man, behavior like this often escalates in the workplace once the offender has been shown they can get away with it. You had no obligation to protect someone like her, your friend is flat out wrong. And yeah guys, if you cannot get enough of my content, please don't forget to check out my podcast by searching for Ripe Stories on all major podcast platforms such as Spotify, Apple or Google Podcasts. Furthermore, you can find bonus content by going to patreon.com/ripeyoutube or by clicking the join button here on YouTube. For a small monthly fee, you will get access to dozens and dozens of exclusive videos you won't find anywhere else. Thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you again tomorrow.